I'm Sean Henry, I'm 24 years old. I've lived in Cumbria for about 5 years now. I came to study zoology and I just graduated this year. When she moved here, it was like a couple of years after Trinidad. She thinks she was about a teenager or just like early 20s. But she met my grandfather like quite later. She had two other kids, two daughters with another man. I don't know anything about him, but my grandfather was working here when he moved here from Jamaica. I think it was later in age than my nan was. But my nan was born like when she was a kid during World War II. So and my grandfather was as well. So he never served in the military because he was a child, and my nan never got involved in the military. And but she did work on the RAF Lake Leith Air Base as doing nursing, cooking, and all that stuff. She was basically like one of the helpers and everything. I find it interesting actually. I saw my mum uploaded a Facebook video of women from the Caribbean come to England as nurses and how they were treated back then. And I was listening to all these women, and they all were very familiar stories to me of what my nan would say. Because obviously it was just after 1950s, but between 1950s and like even up to now, there was still a lot of racial like discrimination. That decreased off, like it has decreased slowly. That's like it's become more frowned upon to actually be like that now. But my nan used to have like people say this and that in the workplace. Well, once she had my mum went to school in Deptford, and that's where I went to school as well. And my mum dealt with a lot of racial discrimination growing up there. And my mum was born in 1973, so she would have been in high school in the 80s, like very much. And she'd tell me stories about like what she had to do, and my nan would tell me stories about what she had to do with like her neighbours and everything. And like one time, one of the neighbours started coming to my nan's house, started cussing her out, giving her racial abuse and everything. But my nan's grown up in Trinidad, where she learned how to fight like a man. And so, like, my nan she took nothing. And when the police came, my nan got her done for racial discrimination, which is usually surprising back in that time, because usually they'll try and flip it to something else. But because how well my family can talk, how well we can manage to be friendly with everyone, like in my hometown, my pop managed to make friends with pretty much anyone he ever met. But he was always good with his hands and like hands-on work. He was a handyman. He done a lot of mechanical work on cars and everything. If my mom had a problem with any of her cars, she'll just take it to my pop. My pop would just fix it up right there and then. But my pop passed away when I was 14, and we had to put him into a care home. And so, how he responded to the care home, originally he responded to it as how he thought it would be after he basically came to England and saw our care homes, how people were treated back in his time. So he thought that if he was going to go to the care home, no one would talk to him, or anyone would get along with him and all this stuff. He thought that he said how he heard about his friend from Jamaica, and he said that God went to the care home and no one talked to him because he was Jamaican and because he was black. So he was afraid that would happen, but that didn't happen. Everyone talked to him, everyone loved him. My pop, I think, always wanted to visit his home again. He never got the chance, unfortunately. My nan, she's on and off. She'll say that she does, and then she'll say that she's not bothered about it or anything. But I think after not seeing it for that long, she would be happy to actually go back and see it. I mean, I would love to see where my heritage comes from, because he used to tell me a load of stories of like voodoo, of the culture. But my nan used to tell me, like, with culture and everything, with tattoos, that her parents, they used to sit on the porch and actually have the old stick and poke tattooing, and they would tattoo each other like every week. Just that's what they would do to pass time, just tattoo each other. My nan used to tell me even about how that she used to use the reeds and everything to like clean her teeth and like all that stuff. And so she knows a lot about herbs and everything. She told me about how like even eating cloves or whatever, like raw cloves, told me how that helps with the stomach, clean your teeth, and that's why I've never had any fillings or anything. My nan talks like she has lived like through quite a lot and everything, but she likes to tell her stories of like where she's been, what she dealt with, what she's seen, what she's heard of, and she constantly told me stories growing up. She knew I loved horror stories, man, so she would tell me stories of strange individuals that she remembers from where she's from. I remember this one story, and it got me interested in a lot of like Gothica type stories because it was pretty much about vampire and everything. And my nan went to me, and she still won't tell me if it's true or not. Because through growing up, she told me it's been a true story, and now she's whenever I bring it up, she's like, yeah, I remember that story. Then gets back to cooking, and it's like, no, I want to know, is this actually true? Did you see this man? But it was basically a man who was eating raw meat in the aisle, but he had a disfigured like face and very sharp teeth, and so my nan said that the story going around the village was that he was a vampire. I was like, man, is this true or not? My pop used to tell me the same type of stories. He told me a story when he was walking back from town, like going home, because it used to be miles to trek from one place to the other. He walked past the cemetery, and he saw this man standing there, and this man was just standing in the cemetery. Then he walked out of the cemetery, and it was just my pop looked back and realised who it was. It was someone that passed away like a week beforehand. I was like, and he said he ran the entire way home. Basically, Norfolk, the town I'm from, Thetford, during World War II, it became a migratory place for people to move to. We had an influx of people like soldiers and everything, because it was basically the runoff of London getting overpopulated. So we got the runoff of people from there, and we also had a lot of migratory people coming from European countries that had been decimated. And there was still a lot of racism from the British who were there, because Norfolk has quite a vast amount of historical value on it, with a lot of it being the Celts, the Saxons, and like Vikings as well, all very Caucasian like groups. And so a lot of like people would be very discriminatory towards anyone that wasn't white, pretty much. And my mom grew up like with it all, and she became very hardened from it. She's like, for me, I grew up with two very strong black women, and they raised me to be like how I am. And my stepdad, who's been with me since I was 7, and he's white Anglo-Saxon, like everything. Although he did make the jokes constantly in the house, saying that I feel like I'm being discriminated in here as being the only white guy. And apparently my response, even as 7-year-olds, used to be, yeah, you are. And he used to turn to my dog and be like, what, Reyes is white? And I went, Reyes is black. And he went, if you shave him, he's white. And I went, you're not shaving him, and his fur is black. In places like that, you become very well known just from like being like the colour that you are, because everyone notices who you are, everyone sees you about. One lot just come up to me, they have no idea who I am, and they were just like, I see you walking around everywhere and all stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm quite noticeable actually. Back then I wouldn't even if someone hit me, I wouldn't even like throw a punch back. And so my mom started playing martial arts, and I actually found a love for martial arts, and I found a love for the culture, the history, and everything of different martial arts and stuff. Like one other thing that I found out about black culture was in boxing. It was a black man, a slave, who invented bobbing and weaving. So before that, every other boxer would just punch each other until they went down, and it was basically a black man who was half the size and half the weight, like not even probably that, I think it was about a third of the weight of his opponent, who was this big white guy, white sailor, and they went into a boxing match and just kept ducking, bobbing, like getting out of the way of every single punch and stuff, and they'd never seen someone do that before. Like looking into all those like type of historical figures who learn how to fight, learning martial arts like then helped a lot. And it helped a lot in the future as well, when I actually did have to fight for my life a lot of times. Like, when I was about 14, I said this at the Black Lives Matter rally.
Yeah, she basically told me, you've been born black, you'll be treated differently. That people will hate you before they get to know you. And I didn't really realise until when I was, I think about 14, 15, I got jumped by 4 guys. And if there's any kids, by the way, I'm going to quote what they said, I may want to cover your ears. They jumped me and yelled, fucking nigger, you should go back to your country, you don't deserve to live. And it took a ball to the back of the head, a metal pole to the stomach, for me to realise this is what women meant. And that led me into depression states. And I realised that if I have kids, I don't want to have that talk with them. I don't want to have to turn around and tell them that you've been born different, you'll be treated differently from everyone. There'll be people that will come up to you and literally tell you to leave a place just because you're black. I want them to actually grow up in a society where they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about the person. They get judged for who they are. If they're like a little prick, then that's what they get judged for. But like those 4 guys, I know full well right now they're probably cracking themselves from the amount of people that showed up here today. And on behalf of my
I got hit with a metal pole and bolted in the back of the head, and that was just because I just decided to take a shortcut. And I was in the city, and I decided to take a shortcut so I could get back to the train station in time. And these lads just didn't like how I looked. Started shouting racial abuse, jumped me. There was 4 of them and just 1 of me, and they decided to try and like beat the hell out of me. And but that wasn't the first time I dealt with something like that. That's basically what it's like. Everyone gets like a certain talk when they're growing up. They get like one talk or the other, that they're this, that they're that. Or like most of the time people get to talk with the birds and bees. Well, with growing up black, we don't get that talk. We get the talk that we're going to be treated differently. We're going to be told like with this, we're going to be told that we're not going to be able to do this, we're not going to be able to do that, and all this stuff. And my mum told me that because of that, I'm gonna have to fight twice as hard to be where I want to be. And that's basically what I've just been doing as I've been growing up. Like, I think that's how I was with anything to do with any racial stereotypes or anything. If someone was on comments or Facebook or whatever and says something and all stuff, all I see is if I see that post, I'm just like, well, I can't say it to anyone in person because they know what will happen, so they can't. So that's why they posted there. So I just find most people nowadays, going from how it was in the past, where people would shout racial discrimination and majority of people would like join in with it, to today, some would shout it and everyone else would turn against that person.